Hello and welcome to another special Unsourced Wall movie review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Munsters movie from writer director Rob Zombie. I've talked about my expectations and hopes for this film a few times now, from when it was first announced, to the original set photos, and to the clips that were being released. And I've always tried to keep a positive point of view. I love the Munsters. I would watch reruns of the original show back to back with reruns of the original Addams Family. They made for an extremely informative experience for me, and I feel like there's always been a space for good Munsters content in television that has been sorely lacking nowadays. So yeah, I wanted to go in optimistic and without any kind of preconceived negative notions about the film. Because, Rob Zombie was an awkward pick for this project, being that he is more known for really crass and crude horror films that have very loud and obnoxious characters and gross out humor. And along with the fact that this was admittedly a very low budget project from Universal's direct-to-video side studio, which meant that there was a lot of folks really going for the jugular on how this looked and what the budget was being used for. But after having seen it, and with all of this in the back of my mind, I have to say I honestly really enjoyed it. I think that it's a lot better and a lot more faithful than people really give it credit for being. But there's a few things I want to talk about first. The first of which is that the movie is, incredibly low budget, like we already said, with effects and sets looking very haphazard and awkwardly empty. Combined with a garish and insanely distracting color palette, it makes for an eyesore of a viewing. That, and the movie is also very hokey and corny. I don't mean that in a bad way per se, but in a way that's just very old school sitcom-y. Lots of puns, sight gags, and the actors just kind of, mugging at the camera. I actually don't find this negative at all, and more often than not, it gave me a lot of hearty, nostalgic chuckles. But it can be off-putting to anyone expecting this to be like a legit movie that is cinematic or, not feeling like an episode of a sitcom, because that's not the case here. But before I dig into the plot and the characters, I do want to mention one thing that at least helps to alleviate a lot of this, and that's watching the movie in black and white. Rob Zombie implied in an interview a while back that it was more of a studio mandate to the movie be in color, while he would have preferred it to be in black and white. And I think that when you actually filter out the color and watch this movie in black and white, you can tell that's the way it was meant to be seen. The original on-set Munsters from the original sitcom also had very garish, exaggerated color schemes, and a lot of black and white productions do the same, because of how things look and are set against each other when you film something or you convert something in black and white. You need a vast color palette so that there's a richness and naturalistic quality to the image when you desaturate it, so it doesn't come off looking flat. And that's exactly the case here. What comes off as eye vomit in color is actually really awesome looking and very striking in black and white. And much like the original show, it helps hide the seams a bit more too. Some of the cheap VFX blending in a lot better without the shock dissonance in color quality. And the set's taking on a really old school feel, kind of something like an old school gothic horror movie, instead of just coming off as sparse. So honestly, I really do implore folks interested in seeing this movie to do so in black and white, however you can. It honestly knocks the movie up 3 points, in terms of not hurting your eyes. Anyway, let's move on to the story and the characters. Befitting that this is both a co-production and also a really low budget affair, the cast is incredibly small, like a handful of characters with speaking parts, and some of them even minor at that. But otherwise, I think they're all either memorable or pretty humorous and at times even charming. I was surprised by how much I loved Jeff Daniel Phillips as Herman Munster, given that while I thought that physically and facially he was a perfect fit, his parts in the trailer gave me a lot of unease. He has a very stringy, high-pitched voice that is at odds with Fred Gwynn's classic baritone. But in the film properly, he has the same sweet, lovable oaf that people have come to know and love from the original TV series. A wide-eyed innocent charm and exuberance and naivety that make him one of the delights, a veritable highlight of the film. And the same goes for Sheri Moon Zombie, who I think people are too harsh on. Listen, no one can make Baby Firefly a good performance. No one. The character just stinks. But I've been on the Sheri Moon Zombie train since Lords of Salem. Lords of Salem wasn't all that great, but she showed a lot of range in it, and that continues with Lily Dracula. I think she hits the Yvonne de Carlo mark a lot closer than her co-star does the Fred Gwynn. Really leaning into that soft, sweet voice and mannerisms. I won't say she disappears into the role, it's very obviously still a front that Sheri Moon is putting on, but I think overall, it's one where her actual skills at acting or at least as a character actor, really come through. And honestly, I enjoyed her performance a lot. And together, the two make quite the pair. Because, well, the movie is ostensibly a love story. It's a rom-com. It's also about real estate swindle, because 90% of movies based on sitcoms are about real estate, for whatever reason, but whatever. Either way, yeah, it's a love story. And it's an oddly allegorically autobiographical one. Its framing of Herman as like a rock star who falls in love with, well, a literal living dead girl, you could kind of see that Rob Zombie not only intended this as a love letter to the original series, but also as one to the relationship between him and his wife and how they met and fell in love. Pretty sweet. And that tone and intent carries the movie more than anything else. You see a lot of heart in this. It has an innocence and harmless charm that is hard to hate. Is it really all that great? No, not really. I think that the movie is pretty flimsy in terms of like narrative for how long it is. This movie is almost 2 hours. And so it feels like a really long episode of a sitcom. And it can be really tedious if you're not into something that's going to be light and breezy. Because that's what it is. It's light and breezy. And I had a lot of fun just sitting down and just letting it play through. But yeah, there's nothing that's going to be really engaging or thrilling or it's going to really suck you in to the story. Because the story, well, it's very much just boy meets girl. And that's the plot. That's the plot. And I enjoyed it. But it's hard to really say that it's captivating in any kind of way. So yeah, if you don't like low budget hokey rom-coms, then you probably won't get much out of this. But it's very content to be that kind of hokey low budget rom-com. And Rob Zombie not only clearly has enough love for the source material, which I've seen reviewers say, oh, Rob Zombie was just pretending or lying about being a Munsters fan. Lies. Those are just lies on their face, because Rob Zombie clearly puts a lot of like what he loves about the TV show, what kind of humor he loves about the TV show into this film, and I applaud him for it. It's amazing. But also, he has enough heart to put into the story that he's crafted to make it just a nice evening watch. It's not thrilling, it's not laugh a minute, but it is comfy, and it's clearly coming from a place of emotion. And that's the sweet spot where the Munsters thrive. So overall, 7 out of 10. Please watch it in black and white if you can. Let's try and get Netflix, I think, owns the rights to this now, because I think Universal sold it to them, or it was commissioned by Netflix from Universal. I don't know. It's been very vague to release a black and white cut, because I would own that outright immediately. So yeah, let me know what you think. Are you excited? Are you going to watch this? Have you seen it? Did you come away liking it? Did you think it was a disappointment? Let me know below. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and see you again next time. Have a great one.